I have a question based on some of the information that you were sharing with us. You mentioned that at this time we have elevated the hadith over the Quran in our understanding of the deen. Now, as a lay person, when I read the Quran, I could take 2 or 3 different meanings from 1 or 2 ayats. An example of this is the first couple of ayats of Surah Nisa, where when I read it, I understand it to be, it's about the polygamy issue. I read it as that men are only allowed as long as the 2, 3, or 4 women are in need, they're orphans or they're mothers of orphans and they're obviously of age. But other scholars read it and they're like, nope, men are allowed to marry up to 4. So this contradiction in understanding the Quran could be different based on different people's interpretation and reading. So how do we understand what Allah's message is based on reading the Quran by ourselves?
I'll say 2 or 3 things in response to what you've asked. For one thing, it's better to be somewhat confused and unclear than to be absolutely clear about certain matter and be on the wrong side. Have a wrong understanding, but a very confident understanding. The other thing is that honestly what you mention as a problem, I take it as something very exciting and challenging. Because the Quran continues to emphasize that we must do tadabbur, continue to do deep reflection while reading the Quran. If you have come to a certain conclusion and others have come to a different conclusion, just compare. I would want you and other young people to start enjoying the experience of tadabbur. It's so brilliant. You compare what is mentioned in the Quran in one passage with what is mentioned elsewhere, and then you come to a conclusion. Then you find that what you've concluded is probably not quite as completely accurate, and then you continue to explore. It really gives you a lot of pleasure. And one thing that I keep emphasizing while talking about the Quran is, which people unfortunately don't realize, don't appreciate. The style of presentation of the Quran is such that if you begin to understand it properly, you will find that what is mentioned in words in the text is not the complete message. Some part of it is implied, and it's implied in a way that you can't deny it. I can give you examples. But sadly, because the taste is not there, people, I again say, have not given the Quran quite as much of importance as it deserves. They're not understanding it. So begin to enjoy the fact that you do not understand the Quran immediately. What I would say is that, if you read a certain passage, let's say comprising of 10 verses, you will get the message. You will know some aspects of what the verses are saying. And in some other aspects, you will have questions. I pray to the Almighty that let it be the case until the last day of my life, because that is going to continue to engage me with the Quran. And why should I look for a reading of the Quran after which I can tell myself that it's all over, finish? No, it should never finish. You will learn, you will get guided, and you will still have questions, and therefore you will read again and over again. See, that's what I'm saying. Because of the overwhelming, significance attached to hadith, the Quran is not at the center stage of the learning process of Muslims. It's just a book of recitation for the purpose of sawab, and a book that is to be memorized and recited beautifully. That's about it. As far as the real understanding of religion is concerned, it's to be found elsewhere. Not just hadith. Hadith is also, I think, in many cases, in many religious groups, less than fiqh, the opinions of scholars.
Would you say it's the same concept as looking at the commentary of the Quran as well, where the commentary has been put at a higher regard?
Yeah, I've heard so many people claiming that this is what we have read in the Quran, even though what they have read is in tafsir. You know, honestly, so many people. This is what the Quran says. I tell such people confidently, the Quran doesn't say it. And, you know, ultimately what transpires is that it was somewhere in the, you know, details, the exegesis.
Yeah.